Thanks for joining us for another episode of Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, here at the News Forum where all voices matter. Today's guest on Boom and Bust is John Barlow, who is the Member of Parliament for Foothills, Alberta, and the Opposition Shadow Minister for Agriculture, Agrifood and Food Security. Let's catch up with him right now. Welcome to the program, John.
Thanks very much for having me, Tony. I really appreciate the opportunity.
It's certainly great having you on the program. Love to get your sense right off the bat what your priorities are. We've got a new parliamentary session coming up just in a couple weeks' time. So what are you focusing on with your critic responsibilities?
Well, I've spent most of the summer traveling to different regions across the country, talking to producers, farmers, ranch families, processors, really getting a pulse of what's going on in Canadian agriculture and some of the issues that they are facing. And certainly there are a number of obstacles that are really holding back Canadian agriculture from reaching its full potential and also helping to address some of the key issues that are happening not only here in Canada, but around the world when it comes to food security and the costs of groceries at the grocery store shelf.
So what are the top issues you've identified, John?
Well, really, it comes down to a handful of issues that, interestingly enough, are pretty much unanimous across the country. The implications the carbon tax is having on the economic viability of Canadian agriculture, access to labor, processing capacity, and just the regulations and red tape that the Liberal government and other levels of government are putting on agriculture is making it extremely difficult for them to stay in business.
Yeah, let's dissect that a little bit. We've got some time to do that. So carbon tax, so that's not just a consumer issue, is what you're saying. Obviously, farmers, in terms of the cost of their inputs and getting to market, those kinds of things, the carbon tax really has a big impact, right?
There's no question, and it is becoming more and more crippling to Canadian agriculture as the Canada Price Index had pegged that by 2025, a 5,000-acre farm will be paying $150,000 a year in carbon taxes alone. But I have, bills on my desk here from farmers across the country who are already getting close to that.
Wow.
One in particular was a fruit and vegetable producer whose energy bills were about $9,000 a month, still a pretty hefty bill. But now this summer, they're $27,000 a month. This is putting the economic viability of these farms at risk. And what we're really trying to do is to connect those dots that consumers who are seeing staggering prices at the grocery store have to realize that these are the direct consequences of increases in carbon tax that are paid throughout the supply chain. They're charged to the farmer who produces it, the trucker who transports it, the grocery store who puts it on the shelves, the processor who processes that food. So the higher that you put these carbon taxes on at the very root, the farmers at the farm gate, consumers and Canadians are paying it at the grocery store.
And that's a key element of this discussion, isn't it? Because the Liberal government's response to all of that is, well, we're giving consumers back, some subsidy or rebate on the carbon tax, so it's really not costing them anything. But when you add in all of these different factors, that's not actually the case.
No, I would challenge Canadians to take a look at what they're paying to put food on the table. And when you see the inflation costs by the Bank of Canada, those reports that have come out, they're double, maybe triple what they are at the grocery store. Those numbers haven't come down. They continue to rise, where you see, pasta up 30%, fruit and vegetables up 24%, bread up, more than 10%. Those are costs that can be directly attributed to the carbon tax that, again, is charged multiple times throughout the supply chain. And the Ontario Federation of Agriculture did a great analysis earlier this year where, the Liberals continue to say that the carbon tax is revenue neutral and farmers get back what they pay. Well, members of the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, they're getting about 13% back on what they're paying on the carbon tax. So it's nowhere near revenue neutral. They are the ones paying it over and over and over again, and that cost directly is attributed to higher grocery prices.
And it doesn't go down. The carbon tax under the Liberals is here to stay, so it really doesn't decrease, does it?
No, in fact, it's like you said, it continues to go up, and the Liberals have introduced a second carbon tax on July 1st, the fuel standard. And nowhere is this more acute than what is going on in Atlantic Canada,
Right.
where I had a producer in
Oh,
PEI
I do
send
want
me.
to talk about Atlantic Canada. That's a really good point. We're just going to take a
Yeah.
brief commercial break. However, John will be right back with you after that break. Please stay with us.